On a quiet street in East Oakland, flashing red lights painted the walls of a small apartment on 74th Avenue. Inside was the sound no one ever forgets, the sharp cry of a newborn and the fading echo of a single gunshot. On the floor lay a 19-year-old mother, shot once in the neck, her body still healing from a recent C-section, but her life already gone. Just 11 days earlier, she'd brought twins into the world. Now she was gone, and the man standing over her wasn't calling for help. He didn't dial 911, he called his mom. But who was Devonia Cummings? And what led from birth to death in less than 2 weeks? The answers lie in what happened behind closed doors, overlooked signs, ignored warnings, and a moment that would leave 4 children without their mother. But before we begin, if you find this video interesting, please give it a like at the end and tell me what you think about the case. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thank you.
It's hard today, y'all. Today I become a mother of 4. Lucky 4.
Devonia Cummings never had the kind of childhood that offered comfort or consistency. In her world, family wasn't something you could rely on. It was something that disappeared behind bars and returned in fragments. Her father, her mother, and her brother, each one, at some point, taken by the revolving door of incarceration. And each return brought a fresh rupture to a family already struggling to stay whole. For most kids, home is where the world feels safe. For Devonia, home was a place defined by instability and silence, where grown-ups came and went, and nothing ever stayed the same. By her early teens, Devonia wasn't just surviving her youth, she was raising herself, cooking meals, holding down the household and looking after others when no one was looking out for her. Her social media told the parts she couldn't say out loud. Post after post begged, "Free my daddy, free my mama, free my brother." Those weren't just hashtags, they were heartaches in plain sight. They were her way of keeping a broken family alive, even if only online. Living through that much emotional abandonment leaves invisible wounds. Wounds that shape how you love, how you trust, how you dream. For Devonia, it built a tough kind of strength, but it also stole her childhood before she had the chance to claim it. By the time she turned 19, she'd already walked through love, betrayal, loneliness, and motherhood. She didn't plan to start a family so young. She was just trying to hold on to something real, to build a life steadier than the one she was born into, to be seen, to be safe, and to give her kids the stability she never got. Devonia was just 13 when she met her first boyfriend. We'll call him Matthew. Introduced through a mutual friend, their bond grew fast, too fast. What started as teenage curiosity soon turned into something far more serious. Before she'd even finished middle school, Devonia was pregnant. At an age when most girls were trading secrets and selfies, she was preparing to become a mother. In October 2019, she gave birth to her first child, a baby girl she named Mayani Janae Cummings. But life didn't pause to make space for her joy. The pressures of young parenthood began to erode the relationship with Matthew. What little support he offered began to disappear just when she needed it most. At night, while others her age were scrolling TikTok or texting friends, Devonia was rocking a crying newborn back to sleep. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, and completely on her own. And yet he kept going, because that's what she'd always done. At 16, with a toddler in tow and heart still healing, Devonia met someone new. He was older and louder. He went by Banga BBMG online. He had charm, flash, and presence, and in those early moments, he made her feel seen. Photos of the two smiling began to fill her social feeds. It looked like happiness, or at least a second chance, but appearances rarely tell the full story. Soon, their relationship became digital theater, playing out in real time across Facebook and Instagram. There were jealous rants, cryptic song lyrics, messy back and forths with other women. Banga's past relationships kept creeping into their present, and every comment thread turned into a battlefield. Devonia, however, was no passive player. She clapped back, defended her space, and stood by her man, even when the spotlight got ugly. Behind the posts was a young woman still chasing love in a world that rarely gave her peace. And behind the chaos was a pattern she didn't yet see forming, a pattern that would only get darker. Despite everything she'd been through, Devonia kept moving forward. In June 2022, she gave birth to her second daughter. Miracle Jana Cummings. And for a moment, life seemed to slow down. 2 young girls, a mother doing her best, and a rhythm that almost looked like stability. But peace never stayed long in Devonia's world. Just 1 year later, in June 2023, another devastating blow struck. Banga BBMG, Miracle's father, died suddenly. Their relationship had been chaotic, but the grief Devonia felt was real. She didn't just mourn him as a partner, she carried the weight of his absence for all his children, not just her own. Quietly, she vowed to help care for the kids he left behind. Because no matter how much pain life gave her, Devonia always gave love in return. By now, a pattern had clearly formed. Men would arrive with promises, they'd say all the right things: security, stability, love. But each one left her with more to carry and fewer hands to help. And still, she didn't walk away from motherhood. When the weight got heavy, she didn't fold, she fed her daughters, she dressed them in matching outfits. She held their hands through first steps and birthdays. She celebrated them online like they were her entire world, because they were. To outsiders, it was easy to judge: too young, too many kids, and too many men. But those who really knew Devonia saw something else. It was during this fragile chapter of her life that Terrence Miles appeared. Terrence was 32, more than a decade older, with a past that carried red flags the size of warning signs. He had 5 felony convictions and many tied to violence, all of them disqualifying him from ever legally owning a firearm. And yet, a gun would later be found in the same apartment where Davonia's life would end. But in the beginning, she didn't see the danger. She saw a man who might finally offer something different. Not flashy like the last one, but steady, present. Maybe, just maybe, this was the reset she needed. But it wasn't long before hope gave way to control. Terrence had a reputation. He was known for his temper, for the way his voice filled a room and left no space for dissent. Behind closed doors, he dominated, emotionally, verbally, and increasingly physically. At first, the signs were subtle. Devonia's posts online started to shift. Gone were the playful selfies and lighthearted updates. Instead came cryptic captions and sudden deletions. The girl who once shared everything started sharing nothing. Neighbors would later recall the arguments, fights that made the walls tremble, but never led to a call for help. Friends noticed the difference too. But in a world where trauma was normal, where chaos blended into routine, no one knew how or when to step in. Until one day it all came to a head, and by then, it was already too late. In May 2024, Devonia endured one of the quietest heartbreaks a woman can face: the loss of a pregnancy. It was a pain she carried alone, beneath the surface, while the world kept moving. But just a few months later, something shifted. She found out she was pregnant again, and this time with twins. It wasn't just another pregnancy. It was a lifeline. 2 beating hearts, offering hope in a world that had taken so much. For once, there was light in her eyes. She posted bump updates, danced through contractions in TikTok clips, and joked with her followers about how she was all belly and all love. Her smile was tired, but real. She wanted this to be the chapter where everything changed.
Losing my baby boy in May, God blessed me and my husband with twin girls.
On February 21st, 2025, Devonia gave birth to her twin daughters via cesarean section. It was a major surgery, and recovery was slow, painful, and relentless. She was still healing, her body stitched and sore, when she returned home to 4 children and mounting pressure. Every bottle, every diaper, every cry, each moment a test of strength she shouldn't have had to face alone. Yet somehow she made it look joyful. On social media, she shared radiant photos of her newborns, captions filled with gratitude, videos full of giggles and inside jokes. For her audience, it looked like love had finally won. But between the smiles were cracks. Some posts were deleted just hours after going up. Others hinted at stress beneath the surface, and the glow began to dim, slowly. Inside that apartment on 74th Avenue, things were growing tense. Neighbors would later recall hearing arguments, heated, frequent, escalating. Terrence's voice was always louder, always sharper. One night he shouted at her, "You had kids before. Why you acting helpless now?" He didn't see the exhaustion, he didn't hear the stitches pulling, he only saw what he wanted to control. And Devonia, still recovering, still bleeding, was quietly planning her escape. In the final 48 hours of her life, she left a trail of digital pleas. She searched for women's shelters in Oakland. She Googled how to leave safely with children. She texted a cousin she hadn't spoken to in years, asking if she and the kids could stay there. Her voice, once loud online, was now whispering from the corners of a phone screen. This wasn't just a woman in pain, this was a woman in danger. She wasn't trying to run from her life, she was trying to save it. In those 11 days after the twins were born, the home that should have been a place of healing became a cage. And Davonier knew it, but knowing wasn't enough. The morning of March 2nd, 2025, started quietly. Davonier Cummings rose slowly, still sore from surgery, and did what she'd been doing every day since the twins arrived. She fed them one by one, with the kind of tenderness only a mother could give. She snapped a photo of them asleep, their tiny faces pressed together in peace, a moment full of love, and unknowingly, the last she would ever share. She sent a message to her cousin shortly after. It read, "I'll call you later, need to talk." But she never got the chance. Somewhere in those early hours, the peace shattered. The tension between Davonier and Terrence Miles, already strained, erupted once more. No one knows exactly what was said, no one knows what tipped the balance, but what's clear is that it turned deadly. In the heat of a moment, Terrence grabbed a gun, he raised it and fired. One shot, straight to her neck, she dropped instantly, no time to scream, no chance to run. But instead of calling for help, Terrence reached for something else, his phone, and he didn't dial 911. He called his mother. "Mom, help, I shot her," he stammered. "I didn't mean to." The call lasted almost 4 minutes, 4 long minutes where he tried to frame the shooting as a mistake, an accident. As if words could undo what the bullet had done. Only after that call did his mother contact emergency services. By the time police arrived, it was already too late. Inside the apartment, Terrence sat calmly in the living room. The twins were nearby in their bassinet, swaddled in silence. He barely looked at the officers. He told them where to find Davonier, the bedroom. There, they discovered her, motionless, bleeding, already gone. The scene spoke louder than any confession. Forensic investigators immediately flagged multiple red flags in Terrence's story. The gunshot wound showed a distance of several feet, not the close-range accident he described. There were no powder burns, no contact marks. Even more suspicious, the firearm had been partially wiped clean with fingerprints removed. That wasn't panic, that was intent. While Davonier lay dying, Terrence had taken the time to clean the weapon instead of saving her life. Still, he stuck to his story. It was an accident and nothing but a misunderstanding. But his face told another story. Flat, emotionless, almost rehearsed. Police cuffed him and read him his rights. The newborn twins, barely a week old, remained just a few feet away, safe but orphaned in an instant. After the murder, the law moved swiftly. Terrence Miles was arrested and charged with a series of severe offenses: murder, domestic violence, being a felon in possession of a firearm, and child endangerment. For committing the act with newborns just feet away, these charges reflected not only the loss of a young woman, but the danger he had created for the children she left behind. At his arraignment, Terrence was denied bail. The judge made it clear he posed a threat too serious to ignore. As prosecutors built their case, a growing body of evidence began to surface: forensic inconsistencies, witness accounts, and digital trails, all pointing to premeditated violence. Behind the scenes, his legal team worked on a defense, but the facts were relentless. One unexpected figure also came under scrutiny: Terrence's mother. She had received the first call after the shooting, and while she ultimately contacted emergency services, reports later alleged that she entered the apartment before police arrived, removing the infants from the scene. What began as maternal panic raised serious legal questions. Had she tampered with evidence? Obstructed the investigation? Authorities opened a separate inquiry, placing her actions under formal review. According to medical experts, those lost minutes mattered. Had Terrence called 911 immediately, Davonier might have lived. Paramedics later confirmed what so many feared. Her wound was critical, but not instantly fatal. With faster aid, there might have been a chance. Instead, time was spent on excuses and on cover-ups. In the days that followed, the question of who would care for Davonier's children loomed large. She had left behind 4 young lives, including 2 newborns who would never hear her voice again. Her extended family stepped forward. Despite their own challenges, they took the children in, vowing to keep them together, to raise them with love, and to honor the spirit of the mother who had given everything for them. They promised what Devonia had always wanted, a chance at stability. Within 24 hours, a memorial began to grow outside the apartment on 74th Avenue. Candles, teddy bears, handwritten notes, photos of Devonia smiling, arms wrapped around her children. People came who'd never even met her, drawn by the unbearable weight of her story. Just days later, more than 200 mourners gathered for a candlelight vigil. Friends, neighbors, and total strangers shared memories, tears, and calls for change. They spoke her name. They remembered her laughter. They lit candles not just for her, but for every woman lost before her. Among those watching was the Black Femicide Prevention Coalition. They didn't just mourn Devonia, they rallied around her story. They highlighted what too often goes ignored, that Black women face a disproportionate risk of fatal domestic violence, and too many die without the world ever saying their names. Her case became a flashpoint, a symbol of a broader epidemic, and of a system that failed to protect her. News outlets soon turned a spotlight on the case. How did a man with 5 felony convictions get a gun? Why weren't warning signs, heard by neighbors, seen in posts, ever addressed? Where were the safety nets for a young mother crying out for help? These weren't just questions about Terrence. They were indictments of broken systems, gun laws unenforced, domestic abuse ignored, young mothers left without support. Devonia's story isn't just about what happened to her. It's about everything that didn't happen in time to save her. It's about the texts no one answered, the arguments no one reported, the fear she tried to outrun and couldn't. It's a story about resilience met with silence. And it asks all of us, what would you have done if you heard the cries? Devonia Cummings was more than a statistic. She was a daughter, a mother, a fighter. She loved hard, laughed loud, and gave her children every ounce of the joy she had left. In her short life, she tried to build what she never had. She deserved more time, more help, and more peace. Now her story stands as both a memorial and a message. If you've been moved by this story, don't let it end here. Share it, support survivors, because somewhere another Devonia is hoping someone will see the signs. And if you're that someone, act. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true crime stories that honor the lives behind the headlines, and leave your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. We remember Devonia Cummings, not just for how she died, but for how she lived, and for the children who will carry her legacy forward. May her memory be a call to protect and a reason to never stay silent again.